What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another look at recent sales for vintage Kenner Star Wars figures, and we're going to focus on loose graded figures today. And if you hadn't noticed already, if you guys shop on eBay a lot, there hasn't been much inventory, and I had to kind of pull up a lot of buy it now situations. Usually I like to cover auctions, but there just hasn't been many because there hasn't been many new items listed on eBay. So a little bit strange how it goes in waves, where I feel like there's a big push of a lot of stuff on eBay, and then we're in kind of a down spot right now where there just isn't much. But I did put together a pretty good list, and surprisingly, there were some pretty big items that sold. I think 2 or maybe even 3 different vinyl cape Jawas sold. We had a Japanese poppy Chewbacca, as you see here. And, you know, the prices were all over the map, some good deals, some not, as always. So let's go ahead and take a look. The first one we're going to start off with is a telescoping Saber Luke Skywalker, new case style, AFA 80+. So it's got the telescoping Saber, brand new case, very nice figure. But now it says it was sold for $38.50, which to me is really high. I think that if you're going to pay that much for it, it needs to at least be an 85. But to me, even an AFA 85 in an auction situation would not sell for $38.50. I just think that that's too high. $38.50 was the number back during the COVID heyday, the COVID market bubble, but prices have come back down. I know of an AFA 85 telescoping Saber, new case style, really perfect figure that sold recently for $2,100 on eBay. So, or excuse me, on Facebook. So it's, you know, no fees or things like that. So that really keeps the price down a little bit. But I think on eBay, if this had been listed on eBay, it probably would have sold in the $2,000 to $2,200 range. So I think that this was an overpay. Now, is it a nice figure? Absolutely. Would I love to have it? Yes. It's a very nice figure, but I wouldn't pay big money right now for something like that, just because the market is down, prices are down, and I think you can get a better deal if you're patient. And it's not like a telescoping Saber Luke Farm Boy is the rarest thing in the world. I mean, they pop up fairly regularly. I would say at least once a month, I would say you'll see one on eBay, maybe every 2 months. So if you're patient, I think you can get a better deal than this price. Next up, here is that poppy Chewbacca. Now, it was displayed a little bit differently than mine. You know, the one I have for the Death Star droid I picked up on Hakes, that was displayed with the paperwork and the baggie and the box next to it. It's a bigger display. I prefer that display versus this display where it's just the poppy, you know, inside of the box. But this was an AFA 80 Chewbacca. It was listed for $1,500. It sold for $1,200. Now, the bigger characters like Han Solo or Luke X-Wing, the Hoth, Stormtrooper is another big one. Vader is a very expensive one. Those can be pretty pricey. I don't feel like Chewbacca is usually that pricey. I think in an auction situation, again, this one sold for $1,200. I bet it would sell for sub $1,000 in an auction, especially displayed like this where you really can't see anything other than a box. I think that, you know, again, the problem with poppies are that they don't pop up very often on eBay. It's really kind of more of an item you have to wait for specialty retailers like, you know, some of the smaller companies that sell Star Wars stuff that's graded, or Hakes. Hakes, I think that they do pop up fairly regularly. But so, you know, if you're really impatient and you got to have it, I don't think $1,200 is the worst overpay in the world. But I do think that if this had been at auction, it would have sold for less than $1,000. Next up, we've got a Vader. This is a Taiwan Vader, not to be confused with the Taiwan only Vader. This was just the standard made in Taiwan Vader, AFA 85 old case style, and it sold for 400 pounds, which if you translate that to US dollars, that's $443. Again, for an older case style Vader Taiwan, admittedly Taiwans are not the easiest thing to find, but I do think that this is a high number. I think that you could probably, you know, it says it sold for 400, but it's actually sold for 350 pounds. Sorry, I misread my notes. So it says on eBay 400 pounds, but it really did sell for 350 pounds, which is 443 US dollars. That's still a big number. I think that that's a number that you could probably get a lot. This is a figure you could get for a lot less in an auction situation. But again, it's not super common. Usually they're Hong Kongs, as we know, but Taiwans do pop up occasionally, and I think you can do probably a little bit better than that one. This one I thought was a good deal. This was Cashel Retro Trader. It was a no COO Han Solo large head. So, the no COOs would appear on like Palatoy cards or Tri-Logos. Now, it was only a UKG 80, but that's still pretty high. I mean, that's a near mint figure, and it sold for 89 pounds, which is 112 US dollars. That's a price I'd pay. I mean, that's a pretty good value. It was definitely lacking in terms of presentation. You can see Han had decided to, I don't know what he did. It looked like he played in some mud or something. So that figure did have some obvious defects to the face. The rest of the figure looked pretty good. It's just, from a presentation perspective, he's got something going on with his face there. So, it looks like he's either battle worn or he's been playing in mud. But anyway, 112 US dollars on that one. Dianoga Trash Monster, graded UKG 90%. So very high grade one. This one was listed for 195 pounds. It sold for 165 pounds, which is 210 US dollars. That's about the going rate, I'd say, for a 90 grade. Very nice looking figure there. Next up, we've got a blue Snags. This one was an older K style. It was graded AFA 80%, no dent in boot. So it's a little harder to find this one. Not terribly hard, but a little bit harder to find this version. And it sold in an auction for $798. 42 bids on that one. So big price. But that's, again, for a blue Snags, that's about the going rate. We document all the time some loose complete ones that are in about this shape or less that can sell for 500 or more. So I don't think that that's a terrible price at all. $800 on that one. Here's another one that sold, a UKG 80%. And this one appears also to be the no toe dent. Just looking at it. Yeah, it looks like it's the no toe dent version. Graded UKG 80%. That one sold in a buy it now for 820 pounds, which is $1,036. So that's a pretty big price disparity when you look at auction versus buy it now. I mean, you're talking, 20 to 30% difference in price. And, this is an AFA 80 versus a UKG 80%. Admittedly, the case presentation on this one's better. But I think most would say that an AFA graded example, same grade versus UKG or CAS would sell for a little bit higher. In this case, this one sold for $200 less because it was an auction versus a buy it now. So, this one looks better to me. I mean, this is a UKG 80%. To me, this one looks a little cleaner than this one. Maybe not. I don't know. This one's got a little bit more torso discoloration, if you look at it. That's a common defect that we talk about all the time. You can see the greenish torso discoloration on this one, whereas this one doesn't really have any. So I say this one presents a little better, personally. Is it worth 20% or 30% more? That's up to you to decide. But, again, it's a figure that does pop up pretty regularly. And I think if you're patient, an auction will pop up. All right, we got several different vinyl cape Jawas that sold. There was a bunch that sold. So the first one is a UKG 75%, new K style, standard Hong Kong vinyl cape Jawa. It was listed for 3,500 pounds, which is $4,400. The best offer accepted was 2,500 pounds, which is still $3,170. $3,170 is what I sold my AFA 85 for. I think I sold mine for $3,300, somewhere in there. So slightly less. But I paid, or slightly more than what this one sold for, but mine's an AFA 85 old K style. This is a UKG 75 new K style. So to me, this is an overpay. I think if you're patient, you can get a much better deal. If you go on Facebook, you can get a better deal than that. This one sold for too much money. Likewise, here's another one. This was graded UKG 80% and sold for 2,500 US dollars. This is a little bit more fair. I think this is the right price. And, so even right here. So this is a 75 and sold for 3,170. And then this was an 80% new K style and it sold for $600 less, or almost $700 less. And that was on eBay. They're both on eBay. So again, you just got to be patient. Don't pull the trigger too quickly. You can find a better deal. And then here is the last vinyl cape Jawa. This one is the Toll Toys version. I think I had this in a what to buy video. Not great photos, but it was only graded AFA 60. But that's pretty common because the Toll Toys Jawa does discolor. You can see very clearly that the legs have discolored relative to the torso. And that's why it got the 60 grade, I'm sure. You know, it could be some issues with the cape as well. But that one did sell, and it sold in an auction for 3,900 Australian dollars, which is 2,600 US dollars. So big number on that one, but they all go for big money. They're just a very desirable figure. Here are a couple of different droid factories. I wanted to show you this one. This was awesome. This Droid Factory R2-D2 had been through the gauntlet, and it was only an AFA 50, but it still sold for 145 pounds, which is 183 US dollars. Now, we see them all the time, loose, ungraded, and maybe in slightly better condition, but they sell for like $300. So this was a pretty good deal if you like the beaters. If you like low-graded beaters, that was a pretty cool one to see. And then here was a better one that sold, and it was kind of an older case style. I had never seen this case style before from AFA, so I'm assuming it's an older case style. And it was a U85, uncirculated 85, so it had to have been an older grade since it still had the uncirculated designation. But that's a much different case style than how they do it now. That now they have like hooks around the legs and kind of have it facing forward. This one is facing to the side. That one was listed for $525. And the best offer accepted on that one was $475, which that's a pretty good deal on a U85. And this is a good example of one that once AFA opens back up, you could send it back in for recasing, right? And get the nicer presentation style. And, you know, a U85 in the new case style would sell for probably $700 or $800. So that was a pretty good deal at $475. Next up, we had an orange-haired Luke Bespin. I don't know why this photo is so blurry, but this one did sell. It was an AFA 80 plus, and it was listed for $400 US dollars, and it sold for $350. So very desirable variant, not one that pops up very, very often, but that orange-haired Luke, it's one to look out for. But that one did sell for $350 in a make an offer situation. Another Luke Bespin. This is one I had in my What to Buy video. Star Wars Daddy. He had this one, an AFA 75 plus Lily Letty version. So this is the Regresso Lily Letty version of Luke Bespin that comes with the wide-handled Bespin blaster with the brown hair. There is also a Returno variant that's much more desirable, very, very expensive and rare, that comes with the DL44 blaster and is blonde-haired. So there's a couple of different variations. This one had archival case, 75 plus, $190 was the final sales price. That's a good value. Really, really good deal on that one. And, you know, go check out Star Wars Daddy. He's a YouTuber and a buddy of mine and a Patreon supporter, Michael A. So congrats on the sale there. And I thought that was a very fair sale for the buyer as well. Next up, we had a Lily Letty Cap 2. So this has the Lily Letty packaging displayed next to the Cap 2. It was graded UKG 80%. And it was listed for 275 pounds, and it sold for 250 pounds, which is 317 US dollars. So pretty cool presentation on a foreign mini rig there. The box was obviously tatty, but most of them are for the Lily Letty mini rigs. So pretty cool presentation. Next up, I sent this one to my Patreon supporters in a buy it now alert. This was a CAS 85 Lumac. And it was listed for $220, and the best offer accepted was $200. So that's a pretty good deal given what they go for loose and ungraded. I thought that was a really good pickup, and congrats to the Patreon supporter that picked that one up, Matthew K. Very good deal on that one, $200 US dollars. Next up was a CAS 90 Barata last 17, and that one was listed for $285, and it sold for $250. That's about right. I mean, an AFA 85 goes for $240 to $250. This was a CAS 90 grade, very high grade, and it sold for $250. So good buy on that one, I think. Next up is an EV99 graded AFA 85 new case style. That one sold for $670. That's a big number. And I think it would probably go for a little bit less. I'm not going to kill you on that one because, you know, EV99's in high grade, especially new case style. I mean, that's a nice figure. And they're all over the map, you know. I mean, I see them go for maybe 500 in AFA 85, but 670, I mean, I'm not going to kill you for that one. I think that's a price I'd probably pay myself personally if I was really wanting to get one. I think it would go for less than an auction, but I think that's a really nice figure and probably worth the money. All right, now we're going to dig into some yak faces, and man, the prices, jeez, the prices have just gotten crazy. This one was a new case style UKG 80%. This I thought was a pretty fair deal. This one sold for 475 pounds, which is $600 US. That's a pretty good price. Now, the high grades, we talk about all the time about high grades, and especially when we get into AFA 90s, that it goes for multiples. And this is a good example of that. It's not a price I'd pay, but this one was an AFA 90 yak face, old case style. It was listed for $27.50, which that to me is what you can get a mint on card tri-logo for. But this one was an AFA 90 and it sold in a make an offer situation for $2,000. $2,000. To me, that's too much. I wouldn't pay that. And again, I know there are collectors out there that have deep pockets that want all AFA 90s or AFA 85 pluses. If that's what you want, go for it. You know, I'm not trying to tell you how to spend your money. But to me, I think from an investment perspective, if I'm going to invest in this kind of stuff, which I don't recommend, right? But if you got play money and you're looking to diversify away from stocks and bonds or whatever else, real estate, and you want to diversify into collectibles, fine. But I would get 3 AFA 85s instead of, or maybe two AFA 85s and 1 AFA 80. And you would get 3 yak faces. And I think that long term, has a better chance to appreciate those 3 versus 1 AFA 90 that you buy at $2,000. So again, I'm not saying that the person bought this was an investor. I'm just saying that if you are thinking about doing that with your play money and you don't want to, buy Bitcoin or something, then be okay with an AFA 85. I think that $2,000 is too much money for a loose graded yak face. I think I'll probably cover it in a market update. There was a graded tri-logo. It was not that high of a grade. It was a mint on card yak face that sold for $19.75. To me, if you're going to drop $2,000, get a mint on card, even in lower grade, a mint on card yak face tri-logo for $19.75 versus an AFA 90 yak face loose graded for $2,000. That would be a better use of your money, in my opinion. All right. Everyone's different. I'm not trying to tell people what to do with their money, but that's just my personal opinion on how I'd spend it. But anyway, I just wanted to say thanks for those of you that watch. If you're new to the channel and you're into kind of prices for these vintage toys, I make a lot of videos on it if you didn't know already. So please consider subscribing. Please give a like to this video as it helps out with the YouTube algorithms. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon.